I had to host a dog fashion show, and I went on before the dogs, and everybody there was just like, "We want to see the Chihuahua sweaters. Why is he on stage?"
Welcome back to Under Oath. Today we're going to be talking to stand-up comedian and actor Paul Elia. Paul, can you hear me?
Jeff, I can hear you great, man. How are you?
I'm good. I actually just watched your special on YouTube, Detroit Player.
Oh, great.
So I saw that it was independently produced. I said, it looks solid. It looks like something that I would absolutely see on Netflix, the same quality, the same content. I mean, how do you choose like YouTube over like Netflix or another area?
Man, well, first of all, thank you for watching it, man. And I feel like we're living in a creator's economy. And when I made this special, I really wanted to own it. I wanted it to be mine. And my comedy special is really a commercial to get people to want to watch me live. So I think a lot of artists are doing this as well. Like putting it on the most global platform like YouTube just makes the most sense. And it's like getting these streamers to want to work with you and give you a deal that is fair is just very rare to get. And I didn't really want to wait or go through that process. So I was like, I'm just going to do this completely indie, put it out for people for free. This is my first one, and hoping that it generates enough hype to where people are like, oh, let's see him live.
Now, you're from California, but you went to your hometown of Detroit. You shoot this thing in Detroit. You're choosing. You're going, okay, I got to pick my theater. Do you ask some friends to come? They fill the theater up. I mean, how'd you feel when you're literally walking on stage going, all right, this is my show?
Man, it was incredible. I just remember that I would always anticipate the feeling of me about to go on stage because I'm like, oh, there's all these cameras here. I pay for everything. I can't mess up. What if I mess up a line? What if something flubs? What if someone heckles me? So there's obviously a lot of these thoughts that are leading up to it. But when I was in the room, I was just like, everybody in this room loves me and I love them. And there were people from my high school, grade school, people that drove from different cities to be there. And it was just so much love that it just felt like I was there to just give everybody a hug and just make them laugh. So when I walked on stage and I felt that energy, I just got goosebumps all over my body. And it really just helped carry me. And I wasn't even worried about what could happen. And I just made it work. So it was really, really blessed. I was so blessed.
Now, I'm not going to use any jokes. I hate when somebody tries to take, I also do comedy, and I hate when somebody takes one of my jokes and puts it out there because I'm going, oh, I can't tell that joke again. I said, but you made a comment about how Arab companies name their companies. Now, without breaking the joke, I was kind of laughing because the company that supposedly financed and produced your special was Mint Comedy Assyrian American National Federation.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what they are.
So I didn't want to bust the joke,
Yeah,
but I was laughing when I saw that. I was going, okay, all right, we can find some humor in that.
Oh yeah, totally. And you know what's so crazy? Like there's so few Assyrian organizations, and there's just so few Assyrian comedians like in this world. And like they immediately were like, how can we help you? We're here to help you. Also, we have another company that makes furniture. They're called Good Furniture Incorporated. If you want to work with them, I'm like, maybe I'm the next one.
It's funny because you make it clear that, listen, I'm Catholic and I'm Iraqi at the same time. And I always laugh because a good friend of mine is Jewish and he's Iraqi. And I can't imagine the comedy tour you'd be going on. It'd be like the true hate tour. Somebody's going to hate you in the audience.
Oh yeah, the Abrahamic face of comedy.
Yes, if you and I toured together, half the theater would be split in half. It'd be great.
Oh yeah, listen, I'm all for it. And honestly, I also think that like there's so much commonality between everybody, and which is what I try to find. Which is what religion fascinates me, and so just being able to like talk about it honestly is something that I always wanted to do. So it's great.
Now, what was interesting to me is you mentioned you went to Dubai, and every once in a while I get asked, hey, could you do a clean set? Could you do these? I can't imagine how clean my set would have to be to survive Dubai.
Yeah, I would say now things are a lot more open, and they're more open when it comes to like humor. But when I did that show back then, I mean, there was just a lot of red tape around so many different subjects, and I didn't really understand. So I was just like, I'm just going to be me and be funny, and they're going to forgive me. And they did not. So we learned a lot.
And they did not. I mean, when a joke falls flat in an audience like that, see, no, when I do a comedy show, worst thing that happens, I bomb. I don't have to worry about somebody sending me to prison, possibly.
Oh yeah, I mean, when jokes were bombing, also that show that I did, which is what a lot of the special is about, that show was inside of a mall. And the mall had like cathedral style ceilings. So everything that I was saying, barely anyone can hear anyway. And and I had to follow a K-pop band. So this K-pop band goes up, completely kills it. Some guy does a backflip and like lands on this guy's arms, and then I have to follow that. And I'm just like, yeah, let me tell you about my immigrant parents. And people are just like, bring the dancers back.
Yeah, I can't even imagine that. I know people do that. I know my buddies go on tour with like bands and everything. And I'm like going, man, those just don't seem like two things that ever work well together.
It's definitely comedy CrossFit, and it will make you stronger. Like I've had to open, and I've done so many bizarre shows. Like I had to host a dog fashion show, and I went on before the dogs, and everybody there was just like, we want to see the Chihuahua sweaters. Why is he on stage? And then just being able to make fun of the situation that people started to laugh. Like I like figured it out. I'm like, wow, if you're just being honest about what's happening, people will respect it. And that's funny in itself.
It's so strange now because comedians are constantly being asked to do non-traditional events. Like a buddy of mine the other day got asked to do a funeral because the person who had loved him so much, had loved his comedy, wanted him to do her funeral. And I'm thinking, my God, what do you got to worry about at that thing? I mean, could you imagine ever having to pull off somebody's funeral?
Oh yeah, I would just go on stage and be like, man, I hope I killed.
Yeah, yeah, I tried that one. It didn't go over big with them either. I was like, oh God. But he said it was good. He said everyone laughed. I guess you need a laugh, at those things.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, it's just interesting, like how many different scenarios are trying to mix comedy. Like even like weddings, like people will contact me and be like, hey, would you mind doing my wedding? Like maybe you could just do some comedy during the wedding, and do some comedy during this baptism, or do comedy during this anniversary dinner, or would you mind just coming to my house doing comedy? It's like, there's obviously a lot of like bizarre and unconventional scenarios, but it's just a testament to how much people love comedy and how much they want it.
Now you talk about the special about your parents, and you use the term, they hustle, they're constantly working, loose cigarettes, a couple things like that. But it really relates to comedy a lot now because, especially during COVID, you had to put out content, you had to do non-traditional shows. I mean, do you think, watching your parents survive and, allow you to have a good life, did it give you anything to go, okay, I can do this?
It gave me everything. Like watching my mom, my dad, he got sick in 2011. So, he never really like fully recovered from it. So my mom, that was around the time when my mom purchased her own business. And my mom was basically working at our family-owned beer and wine store for 20 years. And she was opening and closing the store. And the only days she took off were major holidays and funerals. And my mom would wake up in the morning, make me and my three brothers lunch, pack up the lunch, and then she would go to work. And she would come back at 11:30, tired, spend an hour with us, go back to bed, do the same thing the next day. And like this type of hustle is so rare. But what was driving her was, I have to provide for my family. And I try to adopt that mentality where I'm like, I want to make it an entertainment. If I'm able to work as hard as my mom did, like how my mom was trying to provide for her family, if I'm trying to do that for my career, I think I could do this. So it definitely inspired me. And being able to tell her story and just share it is something that's really important to me too. So I'm just glad I was able to do that.
Now you go to college, you talked about, her putting you through college and things like that. I mean, what's it like when you tell her, oh yeah, the college thing was great, but I want to be a stand-up comedian?
She was not happy at all. But I was just I was just really adamant about it. I was like, Mom, I want to move to LA and pursue entertainment. And my mom was like, okay, fine. I will give you 1 month. If you are not famous in 1 month, you must come back. So when I moved to LA, I was like, cool, I got a month to make this work. And I was on every single acting website. I was hitting up every casting director, trying to get booked on things. And the crazy thing was I actually booked a few projects. Like I booked a movie that was on a major network. I booked a play that was written by a major showrunner and producer, Gary Lennon. Shout out to Gary, it's my boy. And I was like, Mom, see, look, I was able to book a few things. My mom was like, all right, fine, I'll give you 1 more month. So then my mom was eventually, like, you have to show me some results. So that type of pressure really made me want to work really hard. And even now, though, like when people tell her that, oh, your son's a stand-up comedian, my mom's like, he was in law school and he dropped out. So it's like, to this day, that's her headline.
Trust me, my parents, they always laugh about my nonsense. I mean, my mom's still with me, and she's like, what are you doing this week? I said, well, I run the law firm, I do the show, I do a bunch of things, and I'm doing stand-up in Vegas. And she's like, I don't think parents are prepared for children like us.
No, we have to prepare them, And I was even telling my mom, I was like, Mom, I'm using my platform to celebrate you and to spread light and be hilarious. Like, this is what I want to do. And I feel like behind my back, she really appreciates it and respects the hustle. But then in front of me, she has to like play this character and be like, why don't you go back to school?
Well, they can always hope. I mean, probably not going to happen, but she can always hope, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
One thing I watched the whole special, and I get sent stuff all the time before shows, and they go, hey, can you watch the whole movie? I'm like, I don't know if I have time for the whole movie, but I watched your whole special because as a stand-up comedian myself, I'm looking to see, what the choices everybody makes. And for me, it's pretty easy. I don't, old white man syndrome. I mean, that's the worst thing that I have. You go in, Iraqi, a lot of your comedy is based on your history, your family, how you feel about things. And I realized, because I was listening to the audience, and a joke that would have gone over with an Anglo crowd doesn't go over with an Arab crowd as well. And I think the flip side works the same way. How difficult is it for you to, move your material around depending on your audience?
I got really lucky, and I was able to tour with people like, before I filmed it, I was able to tour with people like Matt Rife. And I'm touring with Matt, and his crowds are very Anglo, right? It's very America. And I'm doing jokes about my Middle Eastern upbringing and being Assyrian. Someone never even heard that word. And I'm getting laughs, and it's working. And then I would open up for people like Hudson Minhaj or Mo Ammer or Rami Youssef, some of my dear friends, doing shows with them. And the jokes are working there as well. So I was really careful of what I decided to place into the story. And the jokes that I decided to choose, I'm like, these are jokes that work in all audiences. And the thing that I felt like made it work is that people are like, okay, I can relate to this because it just feels like this guy's telling the truth. And I wanted to avoid making my set heavily Middle Eastern or like heavily in like some niche audience. I'm just like, I can just tell the truth, and that's really all I can focus on. So I didn't really have a lot of difficulty with shifting material. It really worked out.
What's funny is I just opened up for Jim Florentine a couple weeks ago, and I just read the news the other day where they were doing a Seattle show, and I guess they canceled the whole bit because some people in the community had an issue. And I saw Jim set, 2 straight nights, and other than talking about, Taylor Swift, there was nothing controversial about the set at all. And I'm trying to figure out, do people just find hate, or should they just sit down and try to listen to it themselves?
I think there's a lot of people that, and I try not to take it too personally. There's a lot of people that will just find the negative in a situation, or they'll find what is hateful in like a set or a joke. And I just realized we can never please these people. And all we can do is just be real and be authentic and just, perform for the people that are open and do want to see what's funny about what we have to say. So, it's impossible to please everybody, man. As you know, I mean, you're like touring and working with like, different acts in different cities. And, I try to just push past that.
I see that sometimes happen. And the hardest thing for me in a situation like that is, when I have a joke and I think it's a great joke and I work it 5, 6, 7, 20 times and it's not hitting. And I'm wondering if it's the audience or me. Has there ever been a joke you've had that you're going, this is a great joke? I don't see why they're not getting it.
Oh, yeah, all the time. And then I'm just like, what is it about these beats that are not working? And what's so crazy? The way that I found some of these jokes to work is I'm like, let me try doing it slowing down. Let me try doing it where I pause here and then put the emphasis here. And then jokes started to work. Like even the joke where I say, where I talk about, in the special, I mentioned that my parents paid for my tuition in quarters. It was something that I was like, there's something really funny about this. And then when I realized, I'm like, you know what? I just need to give more context to the line before it. And then when I was able to really talk about the loose cigarettes and frame it in a way and really get people to feel that, then the quarters joke was able to get a laugh at the end. Because I was considering cutting it. I'm like, this is just not getting laughs. I think there's an important detail to mention. And I was able to figure it out. So it just takes time, man. It's like, you know this. It's like, all right, let me try changing the word. Let me try removing one word and seeing what happens. So it's like this sort of like Jengaing the joke and removing and adding things that's the fun, really.
When I think about all the stuff and what it takes to do a special and for you to get 45 solid minutes, people don't understand. You have to do a set, 50, 60, 100, 200 times before you get a set perfect enough for it to be a special. I mean, you worked this material about how long before it was perfect in a way that you said, all right, I'm good?
Man, some of these jokes that are in the special, I've been working for 8 years, and there's some jokes that I literally wrote right before I got on stage. Like there's some tags. I was like, let me see if this works. And I just did it and it worked. So it took so long. And also like when I announced I was going to do the hour, I performed it at least 50 times and I kept changing it. I kept rearranging things. I would listen to every set, like on the plane ride to like from St. Louis to Minneapolis. I'm just like, I have my headphones in. I'm listening to the set. I'm watching it. I filmed every set with 2 cameras and I started to like cut it. And I started to like figure out what was funny about whatever line. So I put a lot of work into it. Like I didn't put down the script of the set until the last show. And that's when I put it down. Like even after I filmed it across 2 days, even after the Friday show, I was Saturday morning, I'm with my producers, Azar Usman, and we're watching the set and I'm like writing notes and I'm still working it. So the work never stops, man. And, and I felt like I'm so grateful to be able to do that work because I feel like it does translate. And this special is really something that turned out special.
Well, I enjoyed the hell out of it. I really look forward to talking with you. Hopefully see you on the road soon. And just so everyone knows, they can go to YouTube and you have your own channel there. We have about 30 seconds left. I want to make sure I get all your information. And so why don't you just give it to me?
It is Paul Elia, Elia, Paul Elia Comedy on all socials. Check it out. Detroit Player. Come see me in the city near you.
Okay, appreciate talking to you, Paul. Look forward to seeing you on the road.
You too, Jeff. See you, buddy.